This is a group of people that is so widely diverse and expresses themselves in so many ways. We feel that these artists are our cultural assets. They, to us, is important as the other cultural heritage that we have done such a good job of preserving and conserving. We look at our focus on artists, that they are our nation's greatest asset.
I think in '74 was the first year I attended the Rhinebeck Craft Fair. As I continued to attend these craft fairs, I would be astounded at how many people had problems on the way to the show. But the one thing that I kept realizing over and over again is that during the months that we were gone, during the 11 and a half months that people were not at this show, life was going on. Things happened to people. People got sick. People had fires. When somebody had a problem at the show, we would literally pass a hat. We raised a couple $100, and I realized that this was a completely inadequate way of helping each other, to just anecdotally find out about somebody's misfortune and just on a whim, if one of us had time to walk around and raise money from the others. The person who ran the craft fairs at that time in the 70s and the 80s was Carol Sauvion. It was really Carol who said we could start a non-profit and raise money to somehow give people who've suffered some disaster in their lives some kind of a loan or some kind of a grant.
We heard an explosion, that whole house shook. We ran out in the street, and pieces of my pottery, my stereo, the speakers were 60 feet down the road. The car hit it going well over 60 miles an hour and a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. When this accident happened, angels showed up. The North Carolina Arts Council called me immediately and said, CERF, you're a prime candidate. There aren't any other nets for emergency fund. It helped financially and it helped morally to know that somebody's out there.
We were woken up by the gallery director at 5 in the morning. Somebody had broke into the gallery at night and with great fervor proceeded to break every single piece that was in the show. It was a watershed experience in our life, I would say. It was life-changing. At least getting 2 years' worth of work broken sure changes the way you view things.
The gallery did not have much of an insurance plan. It only covered about a third of the value of the artwork. The CERF loan helped us reinvest in producing a body of work. Most basically buying materials to do more work.
CERF came to our aid when I was diagnosed with cancer, and they were a saving grace. They don't ask you to spend a lot of time trying to get together all the information that most loan and grants do. They respond quickly and are fabulous staff.
Amazingly, I was contacted by representatives of CERF. I think it was less than a week later that I had a check for $1,000. It was enough for me to keep paying Eric, my assistant. He'd been working with me consistently through this whole thing for 2 more weeks, which was enough to get me through the end of the cleanup, and then we were able to get back to work.
After these significant disasters, Katrina, 9/11, there has been a lot of scrambling around among organizations who work with artists to try to figure out who's doing what. There weren't necessarily artist organizations on the ground, so those organizations who work directly with artists got together and decided that we needed to do something about it. CERF was involved in that effort, basically spearheading this group of organizations and formed a coalition to address this lack of a safety net for artists. And it's before, during, and after disasters. Before in the preparedness realm with information and resources, during with the coordination of efforts among organizations that are either on the ground or are national, and then after checking back in and making sure that there's long-term assistance. CERF, while it's spearheading that effort, is also producing something called the Studio Protector, which is a comprehensive wall chart and electronic destination where artists can figure out how to prepare their studio for any kind of disaster, and also where they can go and understand what they need to do once a disaster is hit before a conservator or any help can get to them, how they can save their portfolios or take care of their materials and equipment.
The reality for artists is that we're always barely meeting the bills, and that we have to improvise constantly. So disaster preparedness is usually one of the last things any of us thinks about.
There's common sense stuff that everybody should prepare for, whether you're in the West Coast and it has to do with earthquakes, or in the tornado alley, or in the East Coast because of the hurricanes.
So we just have to take, when they begin taking them down, we need a crew, but then anybody can do that. One of the things that Karen discovered, because of the outpouring of affection and regard that happened when this fire happened, that gave her a whole new sense of community support. I mean, potters from all over the country contributed works to be sold for her benefit.
To look around at somebody's life and what's left of it and realize that it really is more than just the money and the resources that we can put on a situation. It's really the people exchange that happens, where we represent this community that really cares that this person gets back on the ground. And so when we show up, people see and feel that here's an organization that really cares about me and wants to see me recover.